What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 15th, 2022. As mentioned, I'll quickly give you where the Flyers and Sixers stand in the standings. Flyers were 3 points up away from that top three pick. They're playing the Devils tonight. Sixers are a game and a half. They're in the fifth seed right now, but they're a game and a half out of third, and they're a game and a half out of eighth. So they're kind of right there, but Harden and Embiid have been both playing lights out since Harden came back. Hopefully they can continue that. Maxey should be coming back in the next couple weeks. The big story yesterday was somebody had asked, and I don't know the context of it or anything, but something about there's a group of Philly fans who want Embiid to be traded, and I have a feeling, and I don't mean to offend anyone listening, I have a feeling it's that vocal minority that calls into the talk radio stations, whether it's 97.5, WIP. I don't actually listen to that much, to be honest, just because it's the same negativity, the same people who like to hear themselves talk. And it's a shame because there are some good guys on there. My boy Johnny Marks is good. I like Tyrone Johnson as well, but it just seems like it's the same type of callers, and this is probably one of those things where a handful or a small group, I'll be honest, I have not heard anyone in my group or my circle even mention or remotely even think about wanting to trade Embiid. I feel as though he's the focal point right now for the next couple of years of this team. So to think about even trading him is absolutely ridiculous. And again, Joe, if you happen to be listening to me, which I hope you are, we don't want to trade you. Don't let a few knuckleheads ruin your perception. And so speaking of perception, this is probably going to turn into a national story where, Philly fans are running everybody out of town, this, that, and the other. Well, that's the perfect segue to today's topic. On this day in 1968 is when it all began, when the lazy national media has their clip now that they can talk about for the next 50 years, 60 years now, or almost 60 years, I should say. And basically, this was the day that Eagles fans booed Santa. It was halftime of the Vikings game. Backstory on the team, they had started off 0-11. We had talked about this somewhat on here as well as Back to the Future. But they were 0-11. They were in the driver's seat for the number one pick, which at that point, that year, it would have been O.J. Simpson, who long before the murders and before the stealing the memorabilia and serving the jail time and whatnot, was one hell of a football player. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. Number one, ended up going number one in that draft, Hall of Famer. And I know he ran for 2,000 yards. I believe he may have been the first one to do it. But basically, 0-11, they were in the driver's seat, and then they won. And then they won again. So all of a sudden now they had 2 wins, and they had no shot of the first pick. So this is the last game of the season against Minnesota. It snowed, so obviously Franklin Field was slushy and muddy, so the original float that Santa was supposed to go on couldn't make it on the field. The original Santa, I believe, couldn't even make it to the stadium or was in the stadium and said, F this, I'm done, like something. So Frank Olivo was just a young, 18-year-old kid who wore a very beat-up and crappy Santa suit and basically went the length of the field. And I don't know if he went up and down or around the track there at Franklin Field, but everybody was miserable. It was snowing. The Eagles were actually losing this game. They were doing what they should have been doing the previous 2 games, but everybody was booing. They were throwing snowballs, beer bottles, whatever. And obviously they were not happy. And the narrative was, Santa, the Philly fans boo Santa, the Philly fans throw snowballs at Santa. And I have seen and read interviews with Olivo afterwards who basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said I was a sad sack Santa or something like that, and I would have booed myself. So this happened all those years ago, and we're still talking about it today. Whenever anything happens in Philly, It's, well, they booed Santa Claus, blah, 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 blah. And it's 54 years ago. And truthfully, they were pissed off, rightfully so, because at that point, all of the teams were terrible. The Phillies had, and we talked about this before, the Phillies had just had that miserable, memorable collapse in 1964. The Sixers were, I think, a year, was it 66, 67? The Sixers were okay. They were one of the best teams in the league, and I think they were either going to win a championship, or no, I guess they had won the championship the previous summer, the 67-68 year. Flyers were an expansion team. It was just, I get the sense, and just the pictures I see, it was just a miserable time to be in Philly, because the NBA wasn't that big back then. So for the Sixers to be winning the championship, it wasn't like if the Eagles or the Phillies had won the championship. So, I mean, everybody was just miserable. They had something to hang their hopes on, and they just couldn't follow through. And we talked about when there's snow in the stands, and I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's right, but I'll be completely honest. I'd probably throw a snowball too if there was snow in the seats. I was at the snow game, which was probably like 10 years ago or so at this point, but I was at the snow game. Did not throw any snow, but I would have had there been snow in my seats. We were up high enough that my seats were covered. But like that's what happens, especially when you throw alcohol and just people just being miserable, and that's what happened. But on this day, back in 1968, 54 years ago, the legend was born. The Philly fan legend was born, and it's grown, and a lot of the details are true. They live up to whatever they say we are, but all of that to say, it's still weak. It was 54 years ago. It was a young kid who was filling in, doing whatever he could do. He's even said he'd boo himself. And it just was a miserable time to be an Eagles fan. So get over it, national media. All of that, though, to say, Joe, we don't want you out. Do not let it cloud your vision. I fully expect Embiid to get a huge standing ovation on Friday night when they take on the Warriors, because the vocal minority does not believe and does not speak for all of us. They're the ones that, for whatever reason, have the time. Like, I don't know whether I wish I had the time to call in and I could stick up for Joel Embiid today, but I don't have that time to do that. So, I mean, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Here I am recording a podcast for you guys. So I get up early to do that, but I don't have time to call in. So, Joe, please do not, under any circumstance, let this cloud your judgment, affect your relationship with Philly fans, because they're the loud ones. We'll leave it at that. So, happy throwing snowball at Santa Day, 54 years strong. Flyers take on the Devils tonight. Big Eagles game coming up on Sunday. Actually, this Thursday night football game tonight has a big impact, I think. Not a big impact, but it will impact the Eagles' seeding and the NFC playoff picture a lot. So I'm looking forward to this game. It's the Seahawks versus 49ers, I believe, in Seattle. So I'll be tuning into this because it will have major playoff implications. So be sure to tune into that. Be safe out there. Depending on where you're listening, it's supposed to be icy and snowy in the Philadelphia area. So if you're north and west, be safe. Don't go out if you don't have to. Enjoy your Thursday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.